Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation at this conference today. I'm going to speak about sustainability, certain issues of sustainability, and the new perspective, the vast perspective of sustainability. I will start with discussing a little bit the GDP, which we all know that it is not sufficient to characterize sustainability as such, and then we'll make some theoretical and statistical discussion on comparing the trends in GDP and other measures of sustainability. First of all, I'm going to spend some thoughts on what exactly we are going to discuss. Then the vast perspective of sustainability will be presented. We'll speak about empirics, what kind of data are available for our research, and then finally we will make some short discussion. So what we are interested in, how we can compare the sustainability of different economies, the economic development of various countries in various income levels. So how is it possible to make a comparative assessment of the sustainability of these countries? Our goal will be served by the vast perspective of sustainability. So instead of comparing the GDP of these countries, we are going to compare what kind of trends can be seen in the evolution of wealth, overall capital assets of these countries. What are the best sustainability indicators which can be used for these purposes? And then we will see how the theoretical approach is justified or underlined by empirics, real data. So when we ask the question how an economy is doing now, usually we use the GDP. Also, GDP can give some answer on the question of how the performance has been. How the performance of an economy of a country has been in recent years. However, when we ask the question, how is it going to perform in the future? How is it likely to perform in the future? And especially depending on depending on the policies we are going to choose, GDP is not an appropriate indicator. Also, GDP doesn't give us an answer on the question what kind of policies we should pursue, which would be the best to support the economic performance of the country. So for this purpose, we have to research the sustainability, the meaning, the concept of sustainability in a deeper sense, and choose what kind of criteria we shall apply to tell whether an economy, the economic development is sustainable or not. And we have to justify these choices. So sustainability is basically a long-term interrelation between the society, the socio-economic system, and the environment. The sustainability, the concept can characterize this interrelation. I have to emphasize this is a long-term perspective compared to GDP, or in contrast with GDP, which is a short-term, which gives us answer in a short term. So the definition is quite well known by the Brundtland in the Brundtland report, which says that sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We can say this is a very abstract, a high-level abstraction for the conceptualization of sustainability, but can be used as a starting point to build up a sustainability concept for many, many disciplines, including, of course, economics. And from the neoclassical perspective, sustainability is basically a problem of how we share goods and services between generations, how we share the income between consumption and savings which in particular will build the foundations for future consumption. So wealth is the source of income, goods and benefits today and in the future. So wealth serves the society today, today's consumption, as well as becomes the foundation of future consumption. So the sustainability in this sense becomes a problem of well-being across generations. So the proposition is that well-being across generations changes as comprehensive wealth changes, because well-being moves in unison with changes in wealth. And in this sense, we can say that the changes in wealth is the right sustainability indicator. Sustainability has two criteria, the weak criteria and the strong criteria. And I have to mention two important publications from the past. The first one is from 1993 by Pierce and Atkinson. And the second one is more recent by Arrow, Dasgupta, Gulder, and Mumford. These publications are fundamentally established or summarized the past research in terms of the wealth of theoretical research in terms of the wealth perspective of sustainability. So the weak criteria of sustainability assumes that wealth as a whole doesn't change. So a society, an economy is considered sustainable if over a certain period of time, overall wealth doesn't reduce. This also means that certain capital elements can be substituted by other types of capital elements. So certain capital elements are allowed to reduce, while the growth in other capital elements can substitute the decrease in other capital elements. As opposed, the strong criteria of sustainability requires that the critical assets, the typical elements of overall wealth, natural capital assets, are not allowed to reduce. And these are ecosystems which cannot be substituted. So if ecosystems reduce, increase in human capital or man-made capital cannot substitute this loss in ecosystems. So the strong criteria in this sense suggests that in terms of sustainability, we have to focus on the size and the state of ecosystems. When we think in growth accounting, the neoclassical concept focuses on GDP, on the income, which is a flow measure. So the income of economies is measured by GDP and GDP growth, and of course gross savings and the capital accumulation is also part of this of this measure, but primarily the focus is on GDP. Now, as opposed, the sustainability perspective, the measures, the indicators are different. Instead of GDP, we use the ANNI, which is the adjusted net national income, which to some extent takes into account those costs which are associated with generating GDP. So the loss in those capital elements, assets, which are necessary to generate income, and also instead of gross savings, the adjusted net saving is a typical indicator in this framework, where savings is adjusted by components which relate to savings associated with human capital or natural capital. And also, instead of man-made capital, typical in the neoclassical studies, total wealth, the changes in total wealth is measured. And in the sustainability perspective, our focus in the changes in total wealth instead of GDP. So these two indicators will be compared in my presentation. So our research inquiry has two fundamental questions. The first question is how wealth, the changes in wealth, affects economic performance. The neoclassical growth models, the well-known Solow model, did not include the effect of natural capital, so it didn't use natural capital as a factor of production. So the effect of changes in components of wealth was limited to changes in man-made capital and, of course, labor. So the question is how natural capital, or in particular renewable and non-renewable natural capital, can affect growth. The other question is kind of vice versa. So the Kuznets hypothesis, how the exploitation of natural capital resources can affect economic development. So it's if we look into the right side of the chart, the first question, the direction of the question is from bottom up, from wealth, from capital elements towards income. The second question is directed from top down, from the income down to the capital elements. So what we are discussing now in the presentation, the first thing is that we will compare the wealth and sustainability trends of different countries in different income groups, and check how they've performed regarding the criteria of weak and strong sustainability. So that the focus is on the bottom, on comprehensive wealth, so the total wealth of the society and changes in wealth. The second question is a comparison. How GDP growth and the growth in wealth can be compared. What are the differences in these trends, and and if there are differences, what these differences tell us? In theoretical term, total wealth is the weighted sum of all the capital elements that includes the time, the shadow value of time, which in certain approaches the total factor represented total factor productivity changes. Now, again, I would like to call the attention to this to this publication by Aro and Dasgupta from 2010. In practice, a database has been built by the World Bank, which can be used to test the theoretical model of economic growth and the sustainability criteria. In the World Bank database, total wealth is the sum of produced human and natural capital, plus they also account for net foreign assets. So if we check the weak criteria, we can see that approximately 14% of the countries globally do not meet the weak criteria. The table on the right-hand side, you can see the non-sustainable, the number of non-sustainable countries in different country income groups, the low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, high income groups, and this is according to the World Bank classification. So on the left-hand side, you can see that low-income countries below $1,135 per capita, and so forth. So if you look into this table, we can see that about 14% of the countries do not meet altogether the weak criteria of sustainability, including 4 high-income countries. So not meeting weak sustainability is not limited to developing economies. The next table, we can see the results of the strong criteria analysis, and we can conclude that about 58% of the countries globally do not meet the strong criteria, including high-income countries. So 21 out of 44 high-income countries in the World Bank database do not meet the strong criteria. Just to make it clear, the NCPCRG indicator, which is lower than 0, is the natural capital per capita, the renewable component of the natural capital per capita growth. We used the geometric growth rate between 1995 and 2018 to make these comparisons. So we set the hypothesis that the growth rate of wealth has lagged behind GDP growth. That indicates concern over sustained growth. So it means that if overall capital, the growth of in overall capital lags behind GDP, it means that future GDP generation is in danger. So what we do is we compared the geometric growth rate of GDP as well as total wealth for the weak criteria analysis and the renewable component of natural capital for the strong criteria analysis over the 95-18 period, and if we use the World Bank Open Data database, GDP data, the GDP figures are available in the Global Development Indicators sub-database, the wealth data in the wealth account database. I have to mention here that that recently this World Bank database has been renewed. So a new renewed database is available for analysis and may change the results of this earlier analysis to some extent, but fundamentally it is not foreseen that major change, that we will find major changes in the trends. So GDP growth, on the left, the rows for income groups 1, 2, 3, 4, we can see that the different numbers, the number of countries in these income groups, minimum and maximum values of GDP growth as well as the means. We can see that the mean is slightly growing in every income class. The lowest GDP increase over this 15 years period is in the high income countries, 1.6%. The total wealth, the changes in total wealth is represented in this table. The same number of countries in the same income groups. The mean of total wealth changes is lower than for GDP, and the lowest again in the high income countries where total wealth increased only 1%. For analyzing the strong the economic development against the strong criteria of sustainability, we measured the changes in the renewable component of natural capital and found that the mean of the mean growth was negative over the whole period in every income class. And even in high income countries, the renewable component of natural capital decreased by 1%. Now, if we want to represent what we saw on these tables, we can see that for each income group, the highest growth is in GDP. Total wealth, the yellow column, grew somewhat at a lower rate, and finally the renewable component in deep green are shown as a negative value in every country. The most serious reduction was in the upper middle income countries, and also the high income countries indicates very serious loss in the renewable component of natural capital. So, as a conclusion, what we can say is that the strong and weak and strong sustainability of economic development globally is unacceptable. The weak 14% of the countries overall in the world do not meet the weak criteria, and 85% of the countries do not meet the strong criteria of sustainability. Growth rate of total wealth lags behind GDP, and in every country, which means a very negative prospect on GDP growth for the future. And the lag was most outstanding in the upper and lower middle income countries, which are, many of them generate their national income in mineral and energy exports, so which means that the Hartwig rule to reinvest income from these exports into education and human capital doesn't work, or is not shown. Also, we found that the renewable component of natural capital reduced in every income group, almost 1% annually in the upper middle income group, which indicates that limits to growth, the concept we every know, is shown. So GDP growth is slowing down, and as the renewable component of natural capital reduces. The three factors are the most important in the growth prospects of income: the demographic trend, the technological change, and the saving rate. And the impact of these factors can be researched, can be analyzed with deeper research using these data, and the analysis of the impact of these factors can be the subject of various research projects. So finally, I would like to show a conceptual figure which forecasts economic growth as depending on the population growth rate, which says that in basically in a few years, in 5-10 years, the economic growth will substantially turn downwards in countries where population growth rate is high, but even in low population growth rate, demographic growth countries, in a few decades, economic growth will substantially reduce. Thank you very much.